In December 1983, Brazil lost more than a trophy. It lost the original symbol of football's greatest prize, and unlike most stolen icons, this one never came back. The object lifted by legends, celebrated by a nation, simply disappeared into the dark. The official story said it was destroyed. But the evidence was never that simple, so what really happened to the Jules Rimet trophy? To understand why this theft still matters, you have to understand what was taken. The Jules Rimet trophy was not just a cup handed to a champion. It had become a global artifact, a piece of sporting history shaped by politics, myth, national pride, and decades of danger. And by the time it vanished in Rio de Janeiro, it already carried a history of escape, theft, and extraordinary survival. The trophy was commissioned in 1928 by Jules Rimet, the FIFA president who helped create the World Cup. It was designed by French sculptor Abel Lafleur and originally carried the name Victory, or Coupe du Monde, before later becoming known as the Jules Rimet Trophy. It stood about 35 centimeters tall, weighed roughly 3.8 kilograms, and, this matters more than most people realize, it was not made of solid gold. Its core was sterling silver with gold plating. A detail that would later undermine one of the most repeated claims in the entire case. Jules Rimet had decreed that the first nation to win the World Cup 3 times would keep the original trophy forever. Brazil achieved that in 1970 after defeating Italy in Mexico, sealing one of football's most iconic dynasties. From that point on, the trophy no longer represented only FIFA. For Brazil, it became a national relic, proof of sporting greatness and, for many, something even deeper. A symbol that football could elevate the poor, the working class, and black Brazilian players onto the world stage. Long before the 1983 theft, the trophy had already survived 2 remarkable crises. During World War II, after Italy won the 1938 tournament, FIFA Vice President Ottorino Barassi reportedly removed the trophy from a Roman bank vault and hid it in a shoebox under his bed to keep it away from Nazi forces. Then in 1966, while England prepared to host the World Cup, the trophy was stolen from an exhibition at Methodist Central Hall in Westminster. It was recovered a week later by a dog named Pickles, one of the strangest recoveries in sports history. That episode should have been a warning to every football authority on earth. In Brazil, it became a warning that went unheeded. After Brazil's 1970 victory, the trophy was placed in the headquarters of the Brazilian Football Confederation, or CBF, at Rua de Alfândega in downtown Rio de Janeiro. It was displayed near the office of the CBF president, not inside an ultra-secure museum, not under advanced electronic surveillance, and not behind the kind of layered protection you would expect for an object of global importance. And that failure was not just technical. It was cultural. Some officials seemed to believe the trophy was safe because Brazilians loved football too much to desecrate it. The security setup bordered on absurd. The display case used bulletproof glass, but that glass sat inside an ordinary wooden frame fixed to the wall and secured with a standard lock. There was no meaningful alarm infrastructure, no advanced sensors, and no camera network to compensate for those weaknesses. The last line of defense was a lone night watchman patrolling the building by himself. In hindsight, the trophy was not protected by serious security. It was protected by optimism. Investigators later concluded that the theft was not a flawless international masterstroke. It looked more like an opportunistic crime made possible by insider knowledge and weak institutional safeguards. The alleged planner was Sergio Pereira Ayres, also known as Sergio Peralta, a banker and football club agent who reportedly knew the layout of the CBF building. He first approached a professional safecracker named Antonio Seta, but Seta refused. According to the available reporting, he turned the job down for personal and emotional reasons tied to Brazil's 1970 victory. Peralta then moved on to 2 other men, Francisco José Rocha Rivera, a former police officer known as Chico Barbudo, and José Luis Vieira, known as Luis Bigode. There had even been a warning sign before the crime. Chico Barbudo reportedly attempted to gain access to the building by posing as a journalist and asking to see CBF President Jules Coutinho. A secretary blocked the attempt, but the incident did not trigger a major security response. In a case built on preventable failures, that moment stands out. The system had already been tested once. On the night of December 19, 1983, the plan was put into motion. Two masked intruders entered the CBF building while Peralta allegedly remained outside as lookout. Inside, the men overpowered the 55-year-old night watchman, João Batista Maia. They bound him, covered his eyes with medical tape, forced him to help them with access, and moved toward the room where the trophy was displayed. When they reached the case, they did not try to defeat the bulletproof glass itself. They went around it, prying apart the wooden rear frame with simple tools. It was a devastatingly low-tech solution to a high-value target. The thieves took the original Jules Rimet trophy, along with 3 other international trophies made of gold. But they left behind a replica stored nearby in a safe. That detail matters. It suggests the intruders knew exactly what they were after, and how to distinguish the authentic object from a substitute. By morning, the watchman freed himself and reported the theft. Brazil woke up to a national humiliation. The response was immediate and emotional. CBF President Jules Coutinho publicly appealed to the Brazilian people, describing the theft as a national tragedy and insisting that the trophy's spiritual value exceeded its material value. A large reward was announced for its safe return. Police pursued the possibility of an inside job, interrogating former staff, the night watchman, and other people connected to the building. But in the early stage of the investigation, suspicion moved faster than proof. The major break came from Antonio Seta, the safecracker who had allegedly refused to join the job. After reading about the theft in the papers, he went to police and identified Peralta as the planner, naming Chico Barbudo and Luis Bigode as participants. His statement cracked the case open. Based on that testimony, police tracked down and arrested the main suspects. And then the story took an even darker turn, because investigators began pointing to a final buyer. Police publicly claimed that the trophy had been sold to Juan Carlos Hernandez, an Argentine gold dealer and foundry owner. According to the official version circulated at the time, Hernandez took the trophy to a melting facility, cut it into multiple pieces, and reduced it to ordinary bullion for sale on the black market. For many observers, that sounded like the tragic end of the story. A sacred object had been reduced to metal. A symbol had been erased for cash. But almost as soon as that explanation settled into public memory, serious problems began to emerge. Here is where fact and assumption begin to separate. The trophy was not solid gold. Its body was sterling silver with only a layer of gold plating. That means melting it for raw metal would have produced far less value than the public often imagines. Independent analysis later indicated that traces of gold found at Hernandez's facility did not match the expected characteristics of the trophy's plating. Hernandez denied melting it. And from a purely economic standpoint, many later investigators and writers argued that destroying the trophy made little sense. As an intact artifact with immense symbolic value, it was likely worth far more on the illicit collector's market than as scrap metal. That alternative theory is simple and unsettling. Instead of melting the trophy, the thieves may have passed it into a deeper criminal chain and sold it intact to a wealthy private collector. No public auction house could touch an object that famous. But in a hidden market built around ego, secrecy, and possession, the original World Cup trophy could have been priceless. There is no public proof that this happened. But the logic behind it is stronger than the raw metal story many people still repeat. The years that followed only deepened the mystery. Antonio Setta, the witness who had helped expose the suspects, died in a car crash in 1985 while reportedly on his way to provide additional testimony. Former suspect Antonio Carlos Arana was later found shot to death. Chico Barbudo was also killed in what resembled an execution-style attack. Luis Bigoud was eventually rearrested and later released. Peralta was imprisoned, later freed, and died of a heart attack in 2003. These events do not prove a coordinated silencing campaign, but they did make the case feel increasingly contaminated by organized criminal violence. Juan Carlos Hernandez remained one of the most controversial figures in the case. Reporting connected him to a sudden display of wealth after the theft, which fed suspicion that he had profited as an intermediary. Yet despite the central role assigned to him in the public story, the legal outcome was chaotic. He later surfaced in other criminal proceedings, including narcotics charges, and the Trofi case itself never produced the kind of conclusive resolution that would settle what happened beyond doubt. Official certainty was always stronger than official proof. What, then, survives of the original? According to the available record, the original lapis lazuli base, removed decades earlier when the trophy's structure was altered to fit more winners' names, still exists and has been preserved by FIFA. In 1984, Brazil received a replacement version made from a separate process and materials. But a replica can restore ceremony, not history. The real artifact carried the fingerprints of the 20th century. And that object is still gone. Several parts of this story are often misunderstood. First, the trophy was not solid gold, and that misconception has distorted how people judge the alleged motive. Second, the idea that the trophy was definitively melted down goes beyond what the strongest evidence can support. And third, the arrests did not equal full resolution. Police identified a chain of suspects, but the final fate of the trophy itself remained unverified. So what remains unanswered? Was the trophy ever actually cut apart, or was that detail added to make the official explanation feel complete? Who, if anyone, bought it intact? Was the black market for stolen prestige objects already sophisticated enough to absorb something this famous, and keep it hidden forever? And how many people knew more than they ever told police? Decades later, those questions still have no confirmed answer. What can be said with confidence is this: the trophy was real, historically important, poorly protected, and stolen in a crime that should never have been possible. The official melting story became famous, but the available evidence leaves enough gaps to keep that conclusion in doubt. The strongest competing explanation is that the trophy survived and entered a private underground collection, where its value as a forbidden object far exceeded its material worth. But that, too, remains unproven. The final truth may still be locked away with the trophy itself. And maybe that is what makes this case endure, not just the theft, but the uncertainty. A world-famous object vanished, and the deeper investigators looked, the less complete the official ending seemed. Life is weird. Let's talk about it.